That detail really explains how explorable the ring is gonna be and how exactly it's gonna work. Playable elites, world exploration, audio logs, and a lot of other stuff kind of got confirmed or deconfirmed last night for the Ask 343 segment that, you know, happens around the middle of the month. And boy, I don't know, just, it's been a kind of a busy week, but let's talk about it because I promise we're gonna talk about things not related to Xbox soon. It's just fun to build game hype. And the thing I'm the most hyped about for this year is Halo Infinite. I'm gonna sum up all the points. Instead of you watching the 40-minute video, you can kind of come to this hopefully under 10 minutes video. Let's see if I can do that. But yes, the heads in this Ask 343 segment were asked about the weather, you know, stuff like the day and night cycles. And yes, they confirmed that they're gonna have fog and wind in the game at launch. But things like rain and snow, that probably will happen in the future. I really hope rain and snow makes it in, because there's another question that they get asked later on that I'm like, I kind of want a bit more variety. Another point is they really want to flush out the darker segments of the game when it's like nighttime, and so they want to have phantoms with like searchlights, grunts sleeping, you know, and having cool glowing things like certain animals and jackals and fusion coils and such. So that's gonna be cool. Like, I really do want to see this game at nighttime because that is something about Halo we've seen in the past, but this is like an opportunity to really kind of flush that out. Point number 3 that kind of goes with that is there's going to be glowing kind of nightlife creatures, but speaking of the creatures, there is not going to be any hostile wildlife, which a lot of people might be disappointed about. I don't know, it's like Halo Reach with those giant things that we fought. But a cool detail I heard them say is birds and flying creatures might be like flying around locations with interests. So that could be cool. Like if you see a bunch of circling whatevers, then it might be like, I should go there. 2 more big points here that people are probably gonna be really sad about is there is no current plans for dual wielding or playable elites. They want to focus on the weapons and stuff that they have now and bringing back equipment, and they want to focus on making the game very balanced, and that is just Spartan v Spartan action. So for now, there's no plans for playable elites. Hopes for it being a 7-year game. Weapon upgrades. They mentioned at one point that they wanted to have weapons be upgradable and stuff, and even like an upgradable inventory, but they started to feel, and this, I feel exactly the same way if this was true, that it was not feeling like Halo anymore. And I agree, like I feel like that's something that isn't Halo personally, so I'm glad that they kind of backtracked on that. But big concern I had about this recent Inside Infinite was the whole like you can have multiple equipments on the campaign at once, you know? So I'm like, does that happen in the multiplayer? I'm pretty sure it doesn't, and thank goodness the Sandbox director confirmed you could just have one piece of equipment in the matchmaking multiplayer, but in custom games, he says that they want to give players options. So if you want to go hammer with people having multiple pieces of equipment in custom games, that's probably going to be a thing. And the rest of this, they really go into kind of like the exploration factor of Zeta Halo. And honestly, this is kind of an interesting point to really sum it all up. Basically, imagine Halo Infinite is like a massive scale version of the Silent Cartographer level in Halo 1. The Silent Cartographer level in Halo 1 is just like you're all around this island. It is probably the most open world like Halo level there's been, and you could approach all these various spots in whatever order you wish. There's probably a better order to do it, and it's just leave some Marines or a Warthog here and grab this piece. Like that is probably the most open like level, and it's really interesting that they use that as an example, the Silent Cartographer. And that's what they're saying. Just imagine Halo Infinite and Zeta Halo is kind of like a massive scale version of that level. And I find that to really clear some things up. And something I loved in that Inside Infinite was the whole fact that they're basing the biome, you know, aka the world design, off of the Pacific Northwest. Represent, because that's a very lush green and mountainy and watery kind of environment. But in this Ask 343 segment, they were asked, you know, is there anything more than the Pacific Northwest? Like, what about that desert shot that we saw in the announcement trailer? And they get at that there's sub-biomes of this Pacific Northwest main biome. There's gonna be wetlands, like swampy stuff. There will be some deadland areas, thanks to the Banished, which we'll get into in a moment, that are very war-torn, and of course there's Foreigner and Banished structures to go inside, and some maybe really high up altitude spots like, I don't know, the peaks of mountains or something. But that's all they say for now. Kind of like, and I can picture all those, because yeah, that's really what's included in the Pacific Northwest kind of stuff. But I don't know. What about that desert shot? What about that desert shot? The biggest segment that they really touched upon in this whole thing is how it works in the game in terms of like going to future locations. Because this isn't necessarily an open world Halo. It's the closest thing we've had to one. But, you know, somebody asked, like, can you skip ahead to a spot that's like 3 missions later? And they're saying you can? I'm not sure. It's kind of like confusing me a little bit. They say you could go anywhere that's unlocked. You know, you'll unlock new segments as you go through the game, and the story's going to take you to new places. And as you go to those new places, you will unlock new like structures to go into and potential events and so on. I'm a little confused though. There's maybe a foreign structure, a banished base, or some green smoke or whatever. There's things that can distract you from the main objective, and there's no like kill walls either. They've structured the game in a way that, you know, they don't want players to feel blocked off. But I'm still a little bit like, I just want some kind of clarification on that. I personally don't care. I don't want to skip ahead to an area that I haven't been to yet. I like to naturally progress, and it says that that's what they like are intending, but at the same time, he's like, well, if you want to fly to the other side of the ring, go do it. I'm like, what? I love the game Outer Wilds. If you have not played it, it's a fantastic indie game. And something I love about that game is its kind of storytelling through its world design. And that is also something that Halo Infinite's apparently going to do, where you might come across some like crashed pelican. That's the example they used. It's just scarred across the ground, and you could investigate the site, and you might not only find some gear, but you'll also find audio logs. So we'll have the return of audio logs like we had from Halo 3 ODST. But who knows, maybe there's other things like that. He just used that as an example, but there might be other things, you know, like certain carvings on the wall, just like Outer Wilds, like maybe remnants of the past left behind. I love telling the story of the world through just kind of exploring it and finding things. I love that stuff. Really crazy detail is that the ring is not a painted sandbox. It is a actual 3D model, and they wanted it to be a 3D model because, and I'm talking about like way off in the distance, you know, that thing way in the background, like that's, you know, part of the entire, you know, skybox. That's a 3D model, and they want it to be a 3D model because then the sun can actually interact with it and cast shadows and stuff, have eclipses, like, that's an endeavor. The question though is, with this whole day and night cycle of the sun moving and everything, do we get to see cutscenes in like the time of day we are? If it's nighttime or if it's sunset, do we see cutscenes in that time? Answer is yes. Apparently all the cutscenes we are going to be seeing like live. And it's not, this is a very first for Halo, not just like the day and night cycle, but also you will be holding the weapon that you were holding previously. You know, it's no longer Master Chief is always holding an assault rifle, or Locke is always holding a battle rifle. You are actually going to be holding whatever weapon you were holding previously. And I've always wanted Halo to do that because that kind of broke the immersion for me personally sometimes. You're going to be in the time of day that you were and holding the weapon you were, because the camera is literally just, you're going to be seeing the world, and then it's just going to zoom out of your head, and then the cutscene is there. That's super cool. It's all in engine. Banished art style definitely actually impacts the environment. You know, they don't care about the ring. They will tear it all down if they feel like it. You can actually push things off the edge of the Halo ring. He says it's hard to do though for some reason. Like, why would that be hard to do? Can we just drive up to the edge and then maybe just bail our Warthog so it just kind of flies off? Like, why would that be hard? That's gonna be a first though. I don't think we've ever been able to just go at the very edge of a Halo ring. Can we look off of it? I'm really curious about that. And one more note is the spaces in between objectives. You know, like I said earlier, you get dropped off Pelican, your objective is over there. The spaces in between is not only filled with a lot of side missions and stuff you can do, but also the encounters in between. Like the encounters in between you going to this side mission and where you are. There will be random encounters generated, and these encounters will be generated based off of what you are like piloting. Like if you have a vehicle, if you have a Warthog, it'll be some fun things based off a Warthog. If you're a Banshee, it'll be some fun things if you're in a Banshee. If you're on foot, then it'll base it off you being on foot. Like, these encounters aren't just going to be scripted encounters. They're going to be randomly generated based off of what exactly you are, you know, what your state of your player is. I love that, man. This whole Ask 343 segment really made me feel like they are doing their best to make the players feel super immersed in this Halo world and also have the most choice they have ever had. What I ask you though is, what do you think they mean by this whole, you know, how exploring the ring is structured? You know, there isn't invisible walls, but you can't go anywhere until you're later on in the game, but yet you can, you know, they literally say like,
do it.
What does that mean exactly? So let me know what you think of that as well as anything else here. And of course, consider subscribing if you've been here a couple times, because let's build some game hype where I'm gonna talk about Ratchet and Clank here soon. So thanks for watching. Be geek, be proud, be awesome. Halo Infinite's coming. God, the content drought's done. The content drought is done.